Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar entitled Automated Part Storage, Optimizing Space and Cost by Going Vertical. I'm Jim Anderton, Director of Content here at engineering.com, and I'll be your host for an interesting hour. You know, more part SKUs, more inventory and control costs, and that means labor costs go up and up as well. Today's webinar, sponsored by Modula, will show how operators that need to store and retrieve many types and quantities of parts, like automotive dealership parts departments, how they can improve productivity and free up floor space with automated vertical storage solutions. Now, just a reminder, viewers can use the console on your screen to pose typed questions for our Q&A session at the end of this presentation, and I'll moderate that myself. So feel free to key in your questions at any time during the webinar. And now about today's speaker. Michael Cleary is the Automotive Sales Manager for Modula, Inc., one of the leading manufacturers of storage and retrieval solutions with headquarters in the United States and Italy. He implemented one of the first automated storage and retrieval systems in an automotive dealership, and he participated in the early development of the integration of the automotive dealership's DMS to a vertical automated storage system. Now, in his over 20-year career, he's been invited as an expert in many dealership industry conferences and seminars to showcase the many benefits of ASRS for automotive parts departments. Michael?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to also extend a welcome and thank you for attending this webinar sponsored by Modula. I would like to note that while this presentation actually focuses on automotive dealership parts departments, the concepts I'll be discussing and reviewing certainly applies to really any type of small part storage environment. The Modula North American headquarters are in Lewiston, Maryland. This is a slide of the recently remodeled, fully automated plant that's in Lewiston, Maine. Modula is the only manufacturer and supplier of automated retrieval systems in the United States. Modula specializes only in automated storage and retrieval systems, both vertical and horizontals. We just noted and saw the manufacturing facility that's in Lewiston, Maine. There is also an independent facility in Solvents, Italy, that employs over 250 people. Worldwide, Modula has sold over 7,500 units. And what we'll be reviewing today is Modula's many innovative features and benefits, along with the very extremely efficient design that will reduce operational costs for parts departments. The Modula offering of standard tray sizes and load capacities are among the largest and most flexible that are in the industry. We don't have a shrink wrap solution for parts departments. Every parts department we look at specifically for the business metrics so that we can accommodate exactly what the requirements need to be met. And of course, Modula processes adhere to many international standards, including those so noted here, and the units are TUV approved for safe operation in the workplace. But most important, of course, is the technical service and support availability nationwide. Modula has an unequaled network of local trained and certified technicians that provide local knowledge and local expertise that you can rely on. As Jim noted at the beginning, I've been actually directly involved with providing solutions now for over 20 years for automotive parts departments and other parts departments. And again, we'll be presenting how Modula, vertical automated storage systems, and how they'll best maximize cube utilization, expedite order processing, and how they can improve inventory accuracy for your parts departments. And then we'll define and look at how you can determine if your specific parts department, whether it's automotive or not, is a candidate for a Modula automated vertical system so it can obtain a substantial return of investment that we'll be going through too, and how to work on that. Using the automotive dealer landscape, in spite of the current slowdown, it's really very, very good. Dealers which survived the terrible 2007 and 2009 downturn are actually stronger than ever. Revenue has grown at an annualized rate of 6.8% over the last 5 years to over $848 billion. In the next 5 years, automotive dealerships are expected to increase annualized rate at an 8.1%. So right now, many automotive dealers and manufacturing facilities and distribution centers are all looking and requiring themselves to expand or remodel the facilities, and there's also a lot of building of new facilities to accommodate this future projected growth. So timing is really perfect to really look at your parts departments within your organization. I'd like for you to take a minute and just think about your parts department or one that you're familiar with. When you visualize your parts department, how organized is the parts department? Is it cluttered? Is it messy? Are there boxes in the aisle? How clean and dirty are the parts packages? Is there a lot of dust? Is there soda spillage on them? Are they cluttered? And how about special order parts or kit parts? Are they being properly stored and segregated away from your common ordinarily picked up items? And of course, there's always the damaged and warranty and, better lack of a word, used parts. Are they being properly stored? They're not mingled. They have a certain specific area that's clearly marked. And do you really look at, and when you look at your parts department, you're able to determine how productive the parts department personnel are. But more important, when you're visualizing your parts department, is the parts department the proper size? The parts being stored in the proper locations, both fast and moving inventory, to achieve maximum productivity out of there. Today, hundreds of automotive dealerships have discovered that by implementing automated vertical storage systems, there's been substantial improvements. Modular vertical lift modules with their management solutions are tailored specifically to small parts and automotive departments to meet today's business environment and customer expectations. Modular automated vertical storage units do provide several economic benefits. Excuse me, I'm on the downside of a cold and I'll be muting my coughs. Modular benefits include the integration availability to automotive dealership management systems, warehouse management systems such as SAP. The modular benefits that we incorporate into the solutions must achieve and will achieve significant space savings and recovery of valuable floor space. And we've gotten as much as 90% back. The modular solution benefits that we work with increase the productivity, and it's been noted to be over 3.5 times over standard static storage solutions, and we'll be looking at that. Modular benefits also increase item security. Obviously, parts are getting more and more expensive today, and there's improved ergonomics and employee safety that we'll be looking at and talking about. The days of reaching, bending, climbing, heavy lifting of parts are virtually eliminated with a modular solution. And picking accuracy and reliability, because of the available warehouse management system software and the interface to a dealership's DMS system, allows for great traceability, and we'll also take a look at some advanced picking aids that further allow greater picking accuracy and traceability with the modular unit. And of course, improved accountability. I asked how important how productive your parts personnel are, and you'll be able to see that with the modular system integrated with a automated storage system through authentication processes, you'll be able to carefully document it. So Modula has made a substantial investment and commitment over the years for solutions for parts departments. Automated storage and manufacturing and management solutions that are specific and tailored to clients' requirements. Approved interfaces are key that we'll be looking at. And the focus continues on with parts being delivered to operators and technicians, which eliminate wasted walk and search time. Modular solutions increase productivity, security, and user ergonomics, and we'll be looking at how the reducing of the floor space usage allows for better usage of what is now your parts department area. Part of the commitment that Modula has made in the automotive sector is being a certified CDK Approved Interface. And basically what this means, of course, is that there's no external code that has to be installed directly on a DMS system. By having an approved vendor such as CDK and SAP, and having the resources between and the connections between the two management companies, the integration companies, they'll support data quality and performance between the two. And the integration times will be substantially reduced and improve your accuracy. And working with CDK and with the SAPs and other warehouse management systems that are out there, Modula will receive advanced notification of improvements and changes. And of course, these will be passed on to you. So from those benefits, let's look at the features now that Modula incorporates into their system solutions, and they're incorporated specifically, as I said, into each parts department solution. Modula has the capability to pre-map storage locations, and we do this by, if you look at this picture, you can see that this pan has been pre-mapped to a specific size of approximately 4 inches by 4 inches. And in these pan sizes can be pre-mapped either by the part size or the part quantity, and even for jobs that require same parts. For example, a brake job in an automotive dealership. A large part may have to be stored with a real small part. Well, with the Modula feature of pre-mapping, and we know before you put one single part into the Modula unit how many of these numbers of these exact types of bin locations that you will need and that are going to be required. So the loading process from the old static shelving or another facility into the Modula unit is cut in half. And as another outstanding feature of Modula, if you look, for example, in that larger size tray size, bin size in the lower right-hand corner of the picture, let's say tomorrow parts come in one of those smaller bin sizes, and there's about 25 or 30, and they just won't fit in there. Well, with the Modula system, all you have to do is take that divider out, and of course make sure there's not parts behind it, but you can create a larger storage location. So as I said earlier, Modula systems are very, very flexible. And as I mentioned, Modula has a very concern for personnel protection. There's a full light curtain that's located in front of the unit on the very outermost edge, so that if product hangs out or somebody reaches in while the machine is operating, it will immediately shut down. On the controller, which is where the operator, the parts personnel are standing, that's where the emergency stop button is located. It's not underneath the counter, it's not around the corner, it's not on the edge of the machine. It's right on the controller where the operator is doing his picking or his replenishing of parts, so he doesn't have to leave and walk to an emergency stop button. As an added feature, Modula has a sliding door available for further safety access, and as I said, that's an option that is available. We talked a little minute ago about cube utilization and cube maximum, the length and the width, and sizing the bin size, the compartment size, specifically to parts by quantity and size. Well, Modula takes it to the next step. They allow the trays to be stored on 1-inch increments. We're really going to squeeze the wasted space that occurs on static shelving out of there. Usable tray storage heights range from as low as 1.77 inches all the way up to over 27 inches. And how this is accomplished is that as a pan is brought into the storage modular lift, there are sensors, and it detects how high the highest part is in there, and it will find a location within the unit to where to put it exactly. So again, maximum cube utilization. And real important to note is if a pan comes into the window and you put a higher part in, it's not going to just stop and wait for some corrections. It'll look for a location that'll accommodate the higher part that you put into that pan. So now we can talk about understanding the features and benefits. Let's talk about the key advantages again, and just review them. The recovery of valuable floor space. A little while ago, I asked you to visualize your parts department or a parts department that you're familiar with, and it's probably what you kind of thought about. Static shelving, and this one looks pretty good. It's pretty clean and neat. There's no boxes in the aisles. There's really not product that's overhung, and product seems to be pretty organized on the shelving. But when I look at this is what I see. A lot of air, A-I-R, and there's a lot of wasted space, and it's even more pronounced on static shelving environments because they are typically 18, 36, 48 inches deep on the shelving, and a lot of times your parts are only 6 and 12 inches deep. So that's all wasted space. Standard shelving just doesn't allow proper storage for parts picking productivity. A lot of times parts are put away because there's an empty space there, or sequential numbering is used. And when multiple parts are put into a shelving environment such as this, how do you know you're really maintaining FIFO? And it slows down the productivity of the people by storing your parts like this. I mentioned the brake job earlier as an example of a possibility of a work order having multiple parts that need to be picked but are different sizes. Well, with static shelving, that's pretty hard to do because your shelves are fixed and large parts are stored with small parts. So when larger parts need to be stored with smaller parts, as we talked about and you saw with the cube utilization on the pan and the dividers and the flexibility that we have with that, you're able to mingle. In fact, you can even label a pan brake jobs, and that pan would be called down as brake jobs, so vastly improving the productivity and picking of it. Through the years, I've determined and did some little calculations, and most vertical storage systems are about 18 foot tall. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I thought you'd be interested to know that what we have found time and time again is that an 18-foot tall unit will store the same amount of inventory that's in 75 to 90 type shelving bins that are either 18 inches deep, 36 inches deep. 75 to 90. This is usually requires to store that amount of shelving bins about 1,500 square feet. The Modula footprint is typically 100 square feet. So when we're talking about floor space savings, this is how we get it. Cube utilization, maximum cube utilization, and allowing the same amount of parts being stored in 100 square feet by taking advantage of vertical space in your parts department instead of 1,500. This is actually a truck dealership, a picture of a truck dealership, and you're actually looking at the picture of the parts department. And about 3 years ago, they looked at automated storage and retrieval systems and discovered that they could actually add 4 additional revenue-generating service space where the parts department used to be. Improve productivity. This is one of the most pronounced, if you will, improvements that you'll get with a modular system. The concept with the modular automated storage systems is that the picker doesn't have to go to the parts. Parts are brought to the picker. As part of that premise of parts to the picker, not picker to the parts, of course you're going to get improved user ergonomics, and you're going to eliminate the bending, lifting, reaching, climbing that encompasses. You can see by this picture that pans will always be delivered at the same ergonomic height. In this particular picture is a external workstation, and for parts departments that have very, very heavy parts, it's very simple and very easy for an overhead crane or a gantry crane, any kind of lifting device to interface directly with the Modula to get those heavy parts out of there without somebody trying to bend, lift, and hurt themselves on it. So by having the parts to the picker, you're getting product delivered every single time at an ergonomic height. There's no unwanted bending and reaching. Another little feature that Modula has is that they designed their pans to be 25 3/4 inches deep as opposed to 32, 36. Again, thinking in terms of ergonomics to make it easier and safer and just a better picking environment. This happens to be a picture of a dual level entry. If you have a parts department that has a very high velocity of picks and you're picking a lot of orders, this is really great because as the operator is picking from one pan, the second pan is positioning itself ready to take the next pick. So there's no wait time between picking transactions or putting transactions. So gone basically are the days of having to bend, reach with modular systems of heavy parts, having to walk up and down mezzanine steps. Mezzanines can be a poor excuse for placing other inventory that's needed on a daily basis. It's a great place to store overstock or maybe body fender parts or parts that aren't commonly picked, but those days are eliminated. So the staff no longer will have to walk up and down aisles that are dimly lit, dirty. I once had a parts manager tell me, he said, you know, Mike, since we put our automated storage and retrieval system in, my daily Easter egg hunt is over. And that's what they, every day they'd go to work in their parts mart, they call it their Easter egg hunt because they had to go up and down the aisles to pick the parts. Mentioned earlier about increased security of valuable parts, and they certainly are getting expensive, especially in the automotive sector with GPS systems and everything being computerized. Parts, as you can see, are enclosed in a very safe, very enclosed environment. They're no longer sitting exposed. Quite often when I go out on surveys, parts personnel will come up to me and they'll say, you know, this modular system just isn't going to work. And I ask, well, why? And he says, well, you know, he said, I know exactly where such and such a part is located. And I very politely tell him, well, you know what, your accounting department, your manager, and the owners do not want you to know where that part is, and having it exposed out there on the shelving, totally visible, for maybe just picking it up to show somebody, then forgetting, and it's 5 o'clock on Friday, you'll put it back on Monday, those days are over. So parts are stored, as noted, in a totally enclosed environment, and obviously there'll be no more dust, spillage, liquids, anything on your parts anymore. Another fun story is I had a parts manager once tell me ever since he put his automated storage system in, he has an ATM machine, and he can now properly document picks, and they're being protected and in an enclosed environment. So improved inventory accuracy, we claim we'll get it up to 99.9%. And the reason being is we're going to get rid of that paper pick ticket that's used in any parts department. The electronically sent pick tickets, invoices, repair orders, replenishment orders, cycle count orders are sent to the Modula warehouse, to the Modula software system from the warehouse management system or from a dealership DMS system. So electronically, no paper, no check marks, no carrying around of pencils, you're going to get more accurate picking. And quite easily, you can accomplish reconciliation of inventories. Right now, if you want to take an inventory, for example, of parts without a modular system, of parts that all cost $100, you want to know what the inventory accuracy of that. Well, with a discrepancy reconciliation report from Modula, you can run the report and it will tell you exactly what the discrepancies are and where they're at, and can be easily identified. I might note that some automotive dealership principals have actually eliminated your really full inventories because of the reliability and the ability to do these virtual inventories, cycle count inventories, and boost overall inventory management. And this, of course, is done because the operator is operating directly with the interface controller. It's right in front of him. Everything, it's very, very intuitive. Everything that that operator picker needs to know, it's right there at his fingertips. It'll display the sales order number. It'll be a clear display as to the quantity and whether it's a pick or it's a put. He'll have right there in front of him access to quantities and special notes and easy picking confirmation. This is where we're going to be getting that 99% accuracy. It's not a pencil mark. It's not, oh, you know what, there's really 3 here, but I'll make sure I go back and look at it later. This operator controller is one of the largest, in fact it is the largest controller in the industry. It has a 10.5 inch screen, and it's very flexible. It's a touch screen, of course, very intuitive, as I mentioned, and it's very easily interfaced to any DMS system, any warehouse management system for all the transactions that need to be done. Also key with the Modular, what we call co-pilot operator interface, is the ability to attach right there barcode readers, wedge readers, quantity scales, and printers. So if you currently they'll have to go back to a counter to interface with a printer or the obviously pretty hard to carry a barcode scanner around without having a big pack on you, but all this is totally integrated with the co-pilot operator interface controller to make the productivity and picking accuracy achieved to that 99%. So when our parts departments really candidates for modular automated type storage systems, and we'll actually be the first to tell you if you're not. In fact, we were at a auto dealership several months ago, and we determined that the modular system would probably save him about 1,400 square feet. But there really wasn't a good, the way the building was built and the facility was designed, there wasn't anything he could do with that 1,400 square feet. He couldn't put extra parts in it, couldn't make a customer lounge of it because of the orientation of it and everything. But so we'll work with you to make sure that you're going to get that return of investment that we'll be talking about. I mentioned earlier that an 18-foot high unit typically stores about 75, 90 automotive or static shelving type of bins. And that's a pretty good rule of thumb. That's one of the very first things we'll look at is your ceiling. Do you have 18-foot clear? Now, that being said, we've installed automated storage systems through mezzanines, and even in new construction, a pit is dug so that the unit can be set down because of all the substantial benefits, I mean, including the floor space savings, are going to be achieved. So we'll look at this height and make sure that there's going to be the ability to take advantage of vertical space. Obviously, if you have a facility with 10-foot ceilings and there's nothing we can do with that, then you're unfortunately probably not a candidate for a modular system. And I keep going to the 99%, but is your current inventory accuracy really truly at 99%? In addition to the parts coming to the picker, there's some pretty exciting picking enhancements that Modula offers. If you note in the back of the pick window back there, there's an LED bar, and that LED bar will light up exactly over the location where the part is to be picked and what the quantity is, and you can even put descriptions or any other information there. So it's in addition to having that controller right in front of him, he has another visual prompt to show him exactly where the parts are to be picked. As an option, Modula offers a laser pointer, and that will shoot a laser exactly on the exact part that's to be picked to achieve these 99% picking accuracy. So can parts department personnel productivity be documented? I mentioned the parts manager that said, you know, I have my ATM machine. He's able now with the modular system to call people into his office and, you know, Mike, he said, you picked 34 orders yesterday and 27 of them had discrepancies. Is it the parts or is it you? Or so you really have a trail now, a documentation of exactly what's really going on. You might have somebody you think is very busy, and at the end of the day, you see you made 2 picks, but it is documented by having the access codes and the badge readers and all the transactions being electronically calculated and put together. So where is the justification return of investment? And Modula will work with you on a specific, we won't come in with like, this is what you'll probably get. We'll use your business metrics, and we'll use your picking rates and how many people you have, personnel, to develop a very, very specific return of investment. Of course, the recovery of the floor space. And while it's common to reduce existing part storage by 80–90%, we'll look and explore ways that we're going to do with it. I showed the example of the one truck dealership that added service space. Perhaps you need more offices. A great extra space availability is the ability to now buy parts in larger quantities, so you get to take advantage of manufacturing discounts. We'll look at the operator productivity and labor savings that we've talked about, the faster processing of work orders. Typically, there's it takes about 2 to 3 minutes with static shelving to pick a part. With automated storage with the modular system, that's down to about 15–30 seconds. So that's a substantial reduction in how many personnel you may need. They can be reassigned to other tasks. Or in one case, because of the automated storage retrieval system, a dealership was able to add a whole extra delivery. They had a morning delivery and they were able to add an afternoon delivery because of the improvement in the operator productivity and labor savings. And of course the inventory accuracy that we've been talking about. We'll look at your exact, where you're at 93, 94%, 5% inventory improvement, usually results in a lot of parts departments in a big dollar amount and really contributes to a return of investment. And security. All transactions that we visited are logged with time, date, stamps, who did it, where it was, and the parts aren't just sitting out openly on the shelves anymore. So looking at returns of investments, very, very conservatively, we'll say that we'll be shocked. And we'll be surprised if you don't get at least an 18-month. Typically, return of investments are around 12 months. A typical modular system, including the hardware, the software, installation, delivery, training, for an auto parts dealership, ranges from $100,000 to $125,000. So a return of investment on $100,000 to get the improvements that you're going to get from the modular system is pretty dramatic. Modula's commitment to automotive dealerships and to all parts departments started a long time ago. Modula has been involved at the automotive manufacturer level. You can see that there are modular units in the Audi manufacturing facility, Ford, Opel, even Harley-Davidson. And if you're aware of some more, Volkswagen, and if you've ever been to a parts manufacturer, you know now it's really, timing is everything. They're very robotic. So when parts are stored, they have to be on the line. We have a lot of references that will attest to the very, very high reliability of the module units. And heavy-duty manufacturers, the same thing with Caterpillar, Komatsu, Holland Tractor. These people have all implemented and have been successfully using modular systems for many, many years. And even taking it one step back further, and even a real key in the chain of manufacturing, of course, are the suppliers. And Modula has been involved for a very long time with automotive suppliers for the manufacturing facilities. So as I mentioned, the commitment and the understanding of small parts storage has evolved, and there's a complete understanding, a full understanding of how best to manufacture and put together the right specifications for your specific particular parts department. Automotive dealer references are growing substantially as we've made the commitment with Modula to take this expertise and technology to that market. And we look forward to working with automotive dealerships in the future. And as I said, all the concepts, of course, that I've discussed certainly apply to all types of part storage. So I thank you so much for your attention today. And a couple notes: Modula will be at the North American Dealers Association conference, and that's going to be in Las Vegas, known as NADA. We'll be there April 1st through the 3rd. And then at the MODEX show in Atlanta, Modula, and we'll be there also. And at both of these, Modula will be bringing a modular lift system and install it on the floor so that we can demonstrate it right to you. So we'll be at NADA, April 1 through the 3rd, and at MODEX, April 4th through the 7th. There's a current issue out of Fix Ops Magazine, and if you go to Fixed Ops Mag, one word, fixopsmag.com, there's a great article in there about modular automated storage systems. And our website, of course, is I encourage you to visit that, www.modula.us. And if you'd like to call me, I'll give you my direct number. It's 207-310-8278. Again, that's 207-310-8278. And we'd be very, very happy to come out and do a survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And Michael, we have multiple questions from the field here, and I'm going to jump right in and kick off. Question involving inventories. We use scales for annual inventory counting, specifically SKUs, and maybe more generally, like for small parts like that, which are generally inventoried using counting scales or by weight. Does moving the parts into a vertical automated storage system complicate that issue?
It used to, and it used because it was kind of like a standalone system. But with the, as I mentioned, the new CDK interface and working with dealer management systems, it's easy to do. You can, just as you're doing with static shelving, you're able to print out a sheet of, if you will, of the parts that are on a pan. Or as I mentioned, what's very improvement of all this is the cycle count, the reconciliation report that you can do literally on a daily basis.
So Michael, in that sense, then for an audit or inventory check, then presumably they would call down the individual trays and then pull out sort of modules for counting, or would the auditor just accept the electronic system verbatim?
Yes, you can send the reconciliation report runs by itself. It'll compare, if I understand the question, it compares the inventory that's in your warehouse management system or your DMS system with the inventory that's in the modular unit. And all the discrepancies will be noted and printed out. So the person can then go to those exact locations and make some corrections and do it right in real time. Scales are easy also to be interfaces, I mentioned earlier, and having the printer and barcode scanners. All those are tools that are right at the module, and they're not, back and forth, and you don't have to throw a whole bunch of people into the parts department to do an inventory.
Yeah. All right. Next question. It says that our high turns parts, we've moved to the ground floor level bins. Can you track turns? I guess there's a two-part question. The first question, I guess, would be that it appears that with a conventional mezzanine, at least a mezzanine type system, it looks like this user has to reconfigure their system to put their fast turns parts so they're readily at hand.
That's a real good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm glad it was asked because we're the first to note, and part of our survey and analysis of a parts department is we don't put very, very fast-moving parts. I'll use automotive dealerships as an example. Filters, oil, stuff like that moves on a daily, hourly basis. You don't want to put that into the modular unit. That's more receptive to being stored in cabinets and shelving right by the parts counter or right by where most of the picking will be taking place. But absolutely, you definitely don't want to have people walking up and down your mezzanine. You want to get the fast movers. You really want to do a velocity study, and even on once you get them down off the mezzanine, make sure that you look at this velocity report and get them towards the front, if you will, of the parts department instead of the back.
Michael, it's funny you mention that. Just as an aside, personally, I've noticed in my experience on the automotive side is that oddly, sometimes that the fastest turning parts are physically the smallest ones. As you mentioned, you talk about filters, spark plugs, gaskets, those kinds of things. And the slower turning parts are often physically larger or perhaps heavier. So ironically, in a conventional storage scheme, you would put the larger, more awkward parts physically higher on the shelves, where they're harder to get to and more likely to fall on someone's head.
That's exactly correct. That's a great observation. Unfortunately, the fast-moving parts are that, and there's a lot of them. But there's still an awful lot of small parts, washers, bulbs, that aren't what you would call real fast-moving, that are perfect for the modular automated type storage system. Filters, as such, and the oil and the things that spark plugs that you mentioned, they shouldn't be stored in high 7-8 foot shelves. They should be properly stored in cabinets or on open shelving that's only 4 or 5 feet, so they're not falling on your head.
Michael, it sounds like there may be some OSHA / insurance benefits too for the same reasons.
Oh, absolutely. Insurance people love modular automated storage retrieval systems, not only from the the enclosed environment and securing, but the safety. The products aren't out on the shelf anymore. There is no disappearing of parts, and the safeties that we went through, the photo eye safeties, and the emergency stop button being where it is these absolute contributions to meeting and complying with insurance and OSHA requirements. Thanks.
And next question is that we have heavy-duty fixtures. They're a couple 100 pounds each. What is the maximum allowable load per shelf?
The Modula has pans that will go up to the thousands of pounds. And that I wanted to show that one slide that had that external bay so that you can bring the tray out, and overhead would be a trolley or a crane or a gantry crane, but definitely up to over 1,000 pounds of storage per tray is capable on a modular unit.
Well, at that sort of weight, it sounds like you could almost put automotive tooling if you're Espresso Tier 1 in the system.
Absolutely. In fact, a very common application for modular automated storage retrieval is tools and dies. Get them out of sight, out of stored, safely, and then there's no lifting. It's all put on is put into the tray. The tray is delivered ergonomically. You can easily put the tray on it. And I mentioned earlier, I just looked at some notes, and actually Modula can go to 2,000 pounds per tray.
Wow, that's a lot. Michael, the next question is does the system control first in, first out?
Yeah, that's automatically done on most warehouse management systems and DMS systems, and that's a very big advantage that Modula does. We'll make sure that the specific part that is the oldest, if you will, does come out. Static shelving, this is a lot harder to do. If FIFO is real important, a lot of people even in automotive dealerships and then in parts departments, manufacturing, they'll actually do multiple locations so that they'll empty a location first by lot, serial number, or date before they go pick the other ones. But we definitely track by date, even in the same part, multiple parts, but usually it's one part per location.
Okay. Okay. Another question here is the controller Windows-based, and can it be accessed remotely?
The controller is yes and yes, to answer your question. Absolutely can be controlled remotely, and that's part of the advantages that Modula has as far as having the latest and greatest technologies and the latest and greatest interfaces with warehouse managements. And I mentioned the CDK. We have the newest interface with them. So those are all capabilities.
Michael, is Modula furnished vertical part storage systems for bus garages or transit, public transit rail systems?
We have. I'm not personally familiar with it, but I'd be real happy to get that information and send it to them. But absolutely, they have put them in the facilities. Okay.
And related here, its question is, it's just a simple one, is can the system be installed on a wood floor? So I guess we're asking about, so perhaps there's some older structures out there or some buildings. I guess the larger question would be how strong a floor, how much weight bearing? Is that an issue for installing the unit?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and that's something we look at in the survey. The floor has to be robust, so to speak. And what we would do if it was an old facility building with a wood floor, we'd probably put a slab there. You have to remember that the modular system doesn't have point loading. I mean, it's spread out over 100 square feet, but we certainly would look at the floor and get the soil samples and make sure that the units are properly stored. That being said, we've even Modula's even put units on second and third floor levels, as long as that they pass the floor loading capabilities. But we definitely would want to look at that.
Michael, we have one questioner, by the look of it, from across the ocean asking, can you provide a point of contact for European distribution?
I will definitely, I can do that. It's the best right now answer for that is I don't have a personal name, but it would be modula.eu.
That makes sense. Okay. And it's a simple one. It's what if I need to add trays? Can trays be easily added to a system?
Excellent question. Trays can be added and subtracted from the unit as needed. It's very common to have a system where you start out with 20 trays, and as growth requires, you can add more trays. They're very, very, very flexible machines. If for some reason you want to take trays out, which is a common thing to do for tool and dies, or you want to move a pan to a manufacturing spot, you can remove the pan from the unit, put it on a cart, on a fork truck, and take it over to where it needs to be without any stress or strain on a personnel operator.
Yeah. Michael, I've got one about reconfiguration. The question is, if I have to reconfigure the trays, does it cause problems with the software? So I guess we're asking that if you physically rearrange the pattern in the trays, is it very time-consuming then to rearrange the control program?
No, and that's one of the biggest features of Modula and Exclusive, that you can change the, as I mentioned, you can lift a divider out, and you don't have to go into a lot of software or remap that entire pan as required by others. You just create the locations that you want. In fact, it's very common during loading. As you're going along, you say, you know what, I've got this pan was pre-mapped at this, but I need a 6x8. So you take out a divider, go over to the software, to the PC, and do it right there. You don't have to have it done by the manufacturer or any special equipment or tools or coding to do it.
Mm-hmm. Michael, it occurs to me that in most operations I've seen, there's no way to level part demand nice and smoothly throughout a typical working day or a working shift. It seems to be all or nothing. Either everybody wants something at the same time or you have quiet times. That often means you have very high-value personnel running around fetching parts in many operations. So a question about it, does that ROI calculation you gave here, does that factor in the cost savings of having highly skilled personnel not picking parts?
Yeah, that's another good question. What we find and what happens is because of the improved productivity of the modular system, if you have very, very high velocity, it's very common to have one person that's assigned to the modular unit, and that's his assignment. He'll pick orders and put them in a container and turn around and put them on a shelf behind him. You can use people that were normally thrown at jobs to go on what I enjoyed the parts manager calling the Easter egg hunt. You can use those people for other tasks, but by having the parts come to the picker and having the pick rates reduced substantially from minutes to half a minute, you're able to reduce your staff and have them be a lot more productive.
Well, I thought there's a related question about this. In fact, about training. It says it's hard to get good employees these days. How hard is it for them to learn how to use the system? Or that, I assume they mean the control software.
That's another great question. Parts personnel, a lot of them have been in parts departments for years, and they've done it their way. And it is a lot of times there's an initial reaction like, "Gosh, this is going to be a computer," or "This is going to be hard." But the modular co-pilot is so intuitive, and it's so easy to use that I've actually encountered is working with specifically automotive parts departments, is that after the modular system, after an automated storage system, you notice that people are dressed nicer. They're not doing the Easter egg hunt anymore. They're not going into that dirty, dusty environment. They have their little workstation, their little world, and so it's very easy to train. Usually, and within 30 minutes, people are actively putting parts away on it, understand it, and again, it's because it's such a clean environment and a healthier environment, and they don't have to be bending, reaching, and even stepping and climbing on the shelving makes for a better parts department.
And there's a question that it's related here. I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. It looks like this user has small containers that contain things like solvents or inks. And the question is that are the trays plated or powder coated? And is it possible to clean these things up if there's a spill?
Yeah, the pans are galvanized. We don't encourage, for example, batteries or liquids. Those aren't really good candidates for storage in an automotive storage system for ink for the obvious reason. But there have been people that have put liners in, but it's not a good application to put things like that in it.
Yeah. In your installations, your experiences broadly is the automotive dealerships. These installations best done during extensive remodel, during a new build of a facility, or how easy is it to basically go into an existing facility and fit a system?
I would say it's pretty equal, especially with today's branding and remarketing and remodeling of existing facilities. Auto dealers specifically, as you might recall, used to pack up and move, and or they'd get the lot next to them and expand. And those days are over, and they don't want to leave where they're at. So they have to take advantage of the dealership facility where they're at. So we're doing a lot of remodeling. I mentioned we've gone through mezzanines. We've even gone through ceilings. We've gone through the roof of buildings to make sure that the proper storage requirements are met so that they can do the proper remodeling for their parts department.
So, Michael, the return on investment is sufficiently strong that it would be worth actually knocking a hole in the ceiling and raising the ceiling?
Absolutely. Well, all we do is cut a hole out. Obviously, that involves a structural engineer a lot of times, and going through mezzanines. But in fact, it's a good advertising tool at a couple of dealerships. They now have what they were on a auto row, so to speak, and now they really stand out because they've got a big stack up there with their name on it.
And actually, is there a maximum height limit? How high can these units go?
They actually can go up to, I've seen units go as high as 40, 45, even over 45 feet, 46 feet is the maximum height. However, we're very careful that we don't go too high, and the reason being is productivity. If you have one real high unit that's 45 feet, obviously pans that are way at the top are going to take a longer time to get down. That being said, I will note that Modula does sort their pans by velocity, so that pans that are most frequently picked are closest to the pick window, the access point. But we're pretty careful with that not to cause a disruption in the productivity by going too high.
And Michael, how much space is necessary around the base of the unit for access for maintenance and repair?
Just basically 6 feet, just a real small area, 3 feet on each side. In front, of course, you need a little extra space for the operator, but nothing real pronounced. There's a access door on the side that the technician goes into after he's safely secured the unit, and it has to be a Modula certified technician that would go into it.
Okay, that makes sense. It looks like we're nearing the top of the hour. I'm going to ask you just one more question here, and this is related to this. And the question is, do I need three-phase power / professional electrician to wire the system in?
Yes, but these units run best on three-phase, and we have the different voltages available. We will either put a buck boost or a step-down transformer in there to match the electrical power. But yes, three-phase is required for this type of unit.
Michael, that's terrific. I see we've reached the top of the hour. I'd like to thank everyone again for attending today's webinar, and thanks again to Modula for making it possible. Now, this and other engineering.com webinars, as always, will be available online for review at your convenience. Thanks again, everyone.